He thought walking away from you was freedom, that letting you go meant gaining control. But what he didn't see, what he never calculated, was what that silence would cost him. Because now, every quiet night, every scroll through your old messages, every time he sees you thriving without him, it cuts deeper. He didn't just lose a person. He lost the one person who truly saw him, believed in him, stayed through the chaos, and still chose him. Was that person who truly saw him, believed in him, stayed through the chaos, and still chose him. And now that choice is gone. You stopped chasing, you stopped explaining, you stopped waiting. And that's what's killing him. He thought he had time. He mistook your loyalty for permanence. And now he's trapped in the reality he created, where regret screams louder than your love ever did, where your absence is heavier than your presence ever felt. He sees you rising, glowing, outgrowing the version of you that waited. And the worst part? He knows the door is shut, not in anger, but with quiet, irreversible clarity. He let you go, but now he's the one who can't let go. And the haunting truth is, the finality of losing you is the very thing tearing him apart. When he let you go, he didn't think he was making a final decision. He thought he was buying himself time. Time to figure things out. Time to see what else was out there. Time to avoid growing up just a little longer. And the craziest part, in his mind, letting you go didn't mean losing you. It just meant pressing pause. He thought love worked like a bookmark. You close the chapter, but you come back to it later and pick up right where you left off. So he made the call. He pulled away. Maybe slowly at first. He distanced himself under the disguise of needing space or not being ready. And in that moment, he might have genuinely believed it was best for both of you. He thought it was honest, maybe even noble. He wasn't ready to give you what you deserved. And instead of leading you on, he stepped back. It might have even felt responsible to him. But here's what he didn't account for. You weren't just going to wait. You weren't going to keep your life on hold for the day he finally felt ready. You weren't going to treat your heart like an open door that he could walk through when it suited him. And while he was buying himself time, you were growing. You were healing. You were realizing that you deserved someone who didn't need to lose you to see your value. And now that's what's killing him. Because while he was out convincing himself that you'd always be there, maybe even dating casually, maybe going out with friends, maybe acting like he was fine, deep down, a quiet anxiety started to build. A question he couldn't shake: what if she doesn't come back? But even then, he pushed that fear down. He told himself he could still reach out later, that there would always be a window, even if it got smaller. He didn't believe for a second that the door would slam shut. Then, one day, he felt it. Not all at once, but in pieces. The first unanswered message, the change in your tone, the absence of your presence in his life, the way you stopped caring what he was doing, the way your name no longer lingered in his notifications. And that's when it hit him. Not just the loss, but the finality of it. He hadn't just bought himself time. He'd spent it, wasted it, and now it was gone. That realization doesn't arrive in a dramatic scene like the movies. It creeps in during the quiet moments, when he's lying in bed and realizes no one checks in anymore. When he laughs at something and instinctively wants to text you, but remembers he can't. When he sees you out or online, or hears about you from a mutual friend, and there's this sudden pang in his chest. Not just jealousy, Not just missing you, but deep, gut-wrenching regret. Because now he sees the truth. He didn't just lose a relationship, he lost you. And what stings most is the simplicity of it all. You were there, you were willing, you were invested, you would have walked through fire for him. But he got comfortable, he got lazy, he mistook your love as something that would always be there, like gravity. And now he's learning the hard way that love isn't permanent, it's conditional. It requires attention, intention, effort. And when you stop showing up for it, it disappears. He thought letting you go meant pressing pause. But life isn't a movie. You don't wait. You move. You evolve. And now you're further than he ever thought you'd be. Not just in physical distance, but emotionally. You've created space between you and the version of yourself that kept hoping he'd choose. And that's the version of you he's now desperate to get back. But it's too late. And what's killing him now is not just that he let go. It's that he realizes he never really had what he thought he had. He never fully appreciated the depth of your love when it was there. He never saw how rare it was until it was gone. He didn't just miscalculate the risk. He gambled with something priceless and assumed there'd be no consequences. And now he's living with them. There's no undoing it. No magic word. No perfect apology that rewinds time. He let you go. And now he has to sit with the truth that some losses aren't temporary. Some people don't circle back. And some doors, once closed, never open again. He mistook your kindness for permanence. And that's one of the most common mistakes someone makes when they're loved deeply by a good woman. When someone shows up for us consistently, when they forgive us, when they try to understand us, when they offer grace even when we don't deserve it, it's easy to start believing that their love is unconditional in a way that excuses our bad behavior, that it will always be there, that they won't leave, no matter how selfish, distracted, or emotionally unavailable we become. He got used to the way you cared, the way you remembered the little things, the way you made him feel seen, even when he didn't do anything to earn it that day. You showed up even when he gave you very little to hold on to. He started to see your value not as a reflection of your values, but as something he could rely on without effort. And the moment he stopped showing up in return, the scales started to tip. He may not have even realized it in the moment. Sometimes people don't intend to take others for granted. They just slowly slip into the comfort of being loved by someone who never makes them feel the fear of losing it. You became the safe place, the soft landing. He could mess up, disappear, go cold, and you'd still text, you'd still try, you'd still hope. But there's a dangerous thing that happens when someone thinks they have endless chances with you. They stop seeing the cost of their actions. He forgot that love, real love, doesn't thrive in one-sided effort. That being patient doesn't mean you're blind. That your kindness wasn't weakness. It was strength. But strength gets tired too. He didn't believe you'd walk. That's the truth. Deep down, he thought your heart was his, no matter how he treated it. He saw the way you tried and tried again. He saw you hurting, but staying. He thought, she'll never really leave. She loves me too much. What he didn't realize is that love doesn't die in one moment. It dies in layers. Every moment you felt unheard. Every time he dismissed your needs. Every excuse. Every forgotten promise. It chipped away at something sacred. And eventually even the strongest heart runs out of space to store pain. And when it happened, when you finally stopped showing up, it didn't make sense to him at first. It felt sudden, unfair, even. He thought you were just being dramatic. He thought, she'll be back. She always comes back. But you didn't. That's when the panic set in. That's when it started to hit him. Not just what he lost, but why he lost it. It wasn't about a fight. It wasn't about one mistake. It was about the pattern. It was about how many times he saw you hurting and chose not to change. It was about the moments he could have stepped up, but stayed small. And now, in the silence, all of that plays on repeat in his head. He's beginning to understand that your presence wasn't guaranteed, that your kindness was a choice, a daily choice you made, even when he didn't give you reasons to. And now that you've stopped choosing him, he sees the weight of everything he once dismissed. He sees that you weren't asking for too much. You were asking for the bare minimum, and he didn't give it. What's killing him now is the clarity, the realization that he didn't just lose you, he pushed you away, slowly, carelessly, repeatedly. He was holding something precious and treated it like it was replaceable, but now he knows it's not. He thought what you gave was easy to find in someone else, but he's learning that kindness like yours doesn't come around twice. He's looking at his phone, remembering how you used to reach out, how you used to be the one to fix things, the one to apologize first, the one to explain what was wrong. Now there's silence, and it's deafening, because that silence carries a message louder than words ever could. You're done. And here's the part that breaks him the most. He knows you didn't stop caring overnight. You loved him. You loved him through confusion, through inconsistency, through pain. You tried to save it even when you were the only one swimming. He knows that for you to walk away, you must have reached a point where there was nothing left to give. That's not a casual goodbye. That's the kind that doesn't come with second chances. He let you go, but now he realizes it wasn't just you he lost the version of himself that was worthy of your love. And that is a pain he has to live with every single day. He's living in the gap between regret and reality. And that's not just a poetic way of saying he misses you. It's a very real psychological space that eats away at someone when they realize what they had after it's already gone. You see, in the moment he let you go, he wasn't thinking about the finality of that choice. He might have been thinking about freedom, relief, ego, or even just avoidance. But not once did he truly calculate what life would feel like once you were no longer an option. At the time, he might have convinced himself he was doing what's best for him, or that he'd find someone else. Or worse, he thought you'd still be around if he changed his mind. That's what so many people do when they walk away too casually. They assume love has a return policy, that feelings will stay frozen in time, that you won't evolve, won't grow past them, won't find a new rhythm without them. And now every bit of that delusion is breaking down, because now he's in the quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that screams. The kind of silence where he's alone with nothing but his own thoughts, no longer buffered by your presence, your care, or your forgiveness. He replays the texts he didn't respond to, the moments where he brushed off your needs, the fights where he chose pride instead of partnership. He remembers all the chances you gave him and how little he valued them at the time. And now he's forced to live with the weight of those moments, because he's starting to understand the cost, not just of losing you, but of not showing up when it counted. That's the torment of regret. It doesn't come all at once. It creeps in. It shows up in the everyday things. When he hears a song that reminds him of you, when someone mentions a place you used to go together, when he scrolls past your name or stumbles onto a photo and realizes you're not a part of his life anymore, and that he's no longer a part of yours. That slow, sinking ache of knowing that the door didn't just close, is locked, and it's not opening again. But here's what's even more brutal for him. This isn't just about missing you. This is about realizing that the version of himself that let you go wasn't the best version of him. In fact, it might have been the most emotionally unavailable, the most disconnected, the most immature version. And now that he's waking up to that, he's stuck, because regret without action is just self-inflicted pain. And the action he would need to take to repair what he broke, it's too late for that now. So he stays there, stuck in the space between who he was when he had you and who he wants to be now that you're gone. That space is heavy. It's confusing, because it's not just about wanting you back. It's about wishing he'd been ready for you when he had you. And that kind of realization doesn't bring comfort. It brings shame. It forces someone to sit with the version of themselves they used to be and ask, why did I do that? Why didn't I fight harder? Why didn't I recognize what I had? And those aren't easy questions to answer, because they usually point to deep insecurities, unresolved wounds, and patterns that were never confronted. He may not show it outwardly. He might post pictures like he's fine. He might seem like he's moved on. But if you've ever been in that place, you know, real regret isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and isolating. It eats away at someone late at night when they think no one's watching. It creeps in when they realize that no new connection feels quite like the one they lost, that no amount of distraction fills the emotional hole left behind, that no one else really gets them the way you did. And the most painful part of all of this, he knows you won't be the same if he ever comes back. He knows he doesn't get to return to the same version of you who would have bent just to keep the relationship alive. That version of you, she's gone. And what's killing him now is knowing he might never meet the woman you've become, that someone else might, and they'll get the evolved, stronger, wiser you, the one he helped create, not by loving you right, but by failing to. That's the irony of regret. It doesn't just hurt because someone lost you. It hurts because they know you became everything they wanted after they made you feel like you weren't enough. And now that he's waking up to what he had, he has to face the hardest truth of all. Some lessons arrive when the test is already over. When someone walks away from a good thing, they don't always realize what they've done in the moment, especially if they've been used to you being the one who always initiates, always gives, always tries. They don't feel the loss right away because they've grown numb to your presence, numb to your effort. They've mistaken your steady love as something that will just always be there. So when they let you go, when they act like it doesn't matter, they don't anticipate what's coming next. Because what's coming isn't drama, it isn't chaos, it's silence. And that silence is deafening. At first, it feels like freedom to them, space, relief, like they can breathe again. They tell themselves they needed distance, they needed to figure themselves out, and maybe they even go out, distract themselves, surround themselves with noise, other people, work, nights out, anything that keeps them from feeling the absence. But the funny thing is, the absence is always there. They just don't feel it yet. You see, the thing about your love was that it was soft. It didn't demand attention. It didn't scream for recognition. It was the kind of presence that made their life easier without them even realizing it. You brought calm. You brought warmth. You brought a type of care they didn't have to earn every day because you gave it so naturally. And that's exactly why they overlooked it. When you left, it wasn't with a bang. It was quiet. You didn't slam doors or burn bridges. You just stopped showing up. You stopped checking in. You stopped asking how they were. You stopped putting them first. And for a while, they didn't even notice. They assumed the silence was temporary. They figured you'd be back like before, because that's what you've always done, right? But this time was different. You weren't angry. You weren't bitter. You were just done. And that's what's killing them now, because they expected noise, drama, tears, a scene. But what they got was a calm, cold void, a space where your energy used to be. And now they feel it every time they walk through their door and there's no message from you. They feel it every time they go to share something and realize they don't have that same person who genuinely cares to hear it. Your absence is now louder than your presence ever was. That's the part that's haunting them. It's not just the fact that you're gone, it's how quietly you disappeared, how peacefully you let go. Because when someone leaves with peace, it tells you they've really made their decision. It's not a tactic. It's not manipulation. It's closure. And that kind of closure forces them to sit with themselves in a way they've never had to before. They're no longer distracted by your energy. They're no longer comforted by your patience. And now every room feels colder. Every conversation feels less deep. Every victory feels a little less meaningful because you're not there. What used to be taken for granted now feels like a privilege they lost. They remember how you always knew what to say when they were struggling, how you'd pick up on things no one else noticed, how you'd ask questions that made them feel seen. And now those things are gone and they don't know how to replace them. They may try. They might look for you in someone else. They might chase the kind of connection you gave them in people who are only capable of surface level attention. And what they'll find is that it doesn't compare, because what you brought to the table wasn't just affection, it was emotional safety. And once someone has experienced that, losing it is like losing a piece of themselves they didn't know they'd grown dependent on. That's the part they never saw coming. They thought they could walk away and feel lighter. They thought they were making a choice for freedom. But what they actually did was sever the one connection that grounded them. And now, the silence you left behind echoes in every part of their life. It echoes in the spaces where you used to make plans. It echoes in the moments they want to share something good and have no one to really share it with. It echoes when they realize the kind of support and loyalty you offered doesn't come around every day, and it definitely doesn't come back once it's walked away for the last time. That's what's killing them now. Not your anger, not your rejection, but your quiet peace. The kind of peace that says, I'm not chasing anymore. The kind of peace that says, I gave what I could and I'm choosing me now. That silence is where your strength lives. And that silence is what they now have to live with. He expected you to fall apart. That's the truth. Somewhere in the back of his mind, when he let you go or pushed you away or made no effort to keep you, he assumed you'd be the one left broken. Maybe not forever, but for a while. He imagined you missing him, replaying the moments, wondering what you could have done differently. And there was a part of him that took comfort in that, because if you were hurting, then it meant you still cared. It meant the door wasn't fully closed. It meant he still had power. But here's where everything started to shift. You didn't fall apart, at least not in the way he expected. Yes, maybe you cried. Maybe you spent nights replaying every word, trying to make sense of how things ended. But then something in you changed. You got tired of the loop, tired of the waiting, tired of hoping someone would come back and treat you the way you always deserved to be treated. You started investing back into yourself. You began to remember who you were before you spent so much time trying to prove your worth to someone else. You didn't just move on to get over him. You moved forward to get back to you. And that subtle difference is everything. And now he sees it. Maybe not through a direct message or a conversation, but through the quiet ways life shows someone they no longer hold the same place in your world. Maybe he noticed the glow in a photo. Maybe he saw you surrounded by people who actually show up for you. Or maybe, just maybe, he felt it energetically. That shift, that absence of need, that absence of his importance in your life. And it's killing him. Because now he's seeing the version of you he never got to experience fully. The version that isn't begging for connection. The version that's thriving in her peace. You see, it's one thing to miss someone. It's another thing entirely to realize you never even got to meet the best version of them. Because you didn't create the environment where that version could come alive. He sees you showing up for yourself in ways he never did. You started setting boundaries. You started raising your standards. You stopped explaining your worth and began simply living it. And that, more than anything, is the part that stings. Because now he knows you didn't need to be saved. You just needed to be seen. And he never really saw you. He thought he had time to figure it out, time to circle back, time to explore whatever he was chasing. But while he was out there unsure, you were becoming certain. Certain about what you want, certain about what you won't accept anymore, certain that love isn't about waiting for someone to choose you, it's about choosing yourself. So clearly that the wrong people fall away and the right ones can finally find you. What he's wrestling with now isn't just missing you, it's the weight of knowing he let go of someone who was already growing into something extraordinary. Someone who would have stayed, who would have built with him, healed with him, if only he had chosen to meet you halfway. But he didn't. And now you're becoming someone who can't even see him as an option anymore. That's what haunts him. And he might not say it. He might not ever reach out and admit it. He might even pretend like he's fine. But that's the thing. Regret doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it shows up in how often he checks your page, how quickly he skips your name in a conversation, how triggered